everybody, this is Rainier Books and this is my 5th video on my channel. It's the first book haul that I'm going to present with 7 books that I received 2 days ago, and I'm very excited to let you know which titles I got. But first, the weather is beautiful here in Stockholm, Sweden. Outside the sun is shining, but it's very chilly still. It doesn't feel like summer. It feels like summer when you look out the window, but it doesn't feel like summer when you go out because it's really chilly and you have to put on a jacket or a very thick sweater not to get cold walking outside. We're still in Corona mode. We're still in Corona times, and these times have changed our lives really a lot. I was planning to go to Portugal later this summer in June, shortly after the Swedish Midsummer, which is on June 19. And I wanted to spend like 10 days along the Lisbon coast. South of Lisbon is a beautiful little place called Costa da Caparica. I've been there twice and I wanted to go there for a 3rd time, but now it's impossible to go there. The foreign department here in Sweden has strongly advised us not to travel abroad, and I'm not going to do it, of course. So I canceled the apartment, which actually had a terrace on the roof, and I was dreaming already in February of looking out over the Atlantic Ocean, which is beautiful down there, south of the city, the amazing and beautiful city of Lisbon. But now we start with the 7 books that I want to talk about today, that I bought, that I have to read during the summer, and hopefully I will give you reviews of all of them where I have a little more time to speak about the books that I've acquired now. The first one is actually a debut. It's a woman author, as I said, would go to Africa. It's set in Nigeria. It's written by a British author who was born in Nigeria, but she has been living in the United Kingdom now for 18 years. And I'm talking about Abi Daré and her debut novel, The Girl with a Loud Invoice. The Girl with a Loud Invoice is a book that is really anticipated. It was there's a lot of articles about this book, a lot of interviews with the author. It is a story of a 15-year-old girl from Nigeria, and I think her name, I have to look it up, her name is Aduni. Aduni is 15 years old, and she comes from a broken family, lives with her father alone, and the father sort of gives her away to marriage with a very much older guy. And she's the 3rd wife of this man who has several wives. And after an incident, something happens. I don't know what happens. Something happens, and Aduni is going to be not sold, but she's going to put in another kind of home. She gets away from her husband, but she becomes a domestic servant in another house. But Aduni doesn't give up. She doesn't want to live like this. And she has heard that someone in her household where she's living now has disappeared under very strange circumstances. And she wants to know the truth, and she wants to have the right to educate herself, to get an education and to make something more of her life. She doesn't want to be just sold and pushed around as someone's daughter, someone's wife, or someone's servant. So this novel there's a beautiful blurb here by Imbolo Mbue, who says, "This is a celebration of girls who dare to dream and those who help them unfurl their wings so that they might soar." I'm very interested in reading Abi Daré's book, The Girl with a Loud Voice, an unforgettable novel, says Janine Cummins, the author of American Dirt. I wasn't so fond of that book, as you might remember. Book number 2 is another debut. It's another debut. It's another book of, but is that important really? It's another book of a writer of color from the United Kingdom. It is written by a woman called Luan Goldie, and the book is called Nightingale Point. Luan Goldie is a primary teacher in the United Kingdom. She grew up in Glasgow, a beautiful city that I had the honor to visit last October. I loved Glasgow. I loved Scotland. It was a beautiful time there. Hello, everyone in Scotland. I really loved your country and I want to come back after this has changed maybe. This is Nightingale Point. And Nightingale Point is an estate in London. And this book deals with a bunch of people in the 1990s, in 1996 and onwards, that live on an estate. I don't know if you know what an estate is. An estate is something different in America than in the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, estates are usually social housing entities with hundreds, if not thousands, of apartments where mostly people with low incomes live. I've seen many estates in London. I've visited London many times. I've seen the Haygate estate, the very famous Haygate estate that was demolished a few years ago. Now they're building now they're building very high-priced apartments on the same ground where they have demolished the Haygate. There are other estates in central London and outside London, of course, and in the whole United Kingdom, very often in brutalist architecture. And people grow up there, and sometimes mostly they grow up in very difficult conditions. And this is Nightingale Point about, and Nightingale Point is about 5 characters by the name of Mary, Malachi, Tristan, Elvis, and Pamela, who live on that estate in one unit, and their lives are changed drastically by a fire. And when I speak of fire and estates, every one of you is certainly remembering the Grenfell Tower fire that devastated one of these brutalist architecture houses in London a few years ago, where I think it was 4 years ago, where almost 100 people died. I've visited Grenfell Tower after the incident, and the atmosphere is very, very gripping, and the people are there, they're poor, and they're very hurt, and the United Kingdom hasn't really helped them to get new apartments, and hasn't really cared about the fire rules of the buildings. And this is about a fire, Nightingale Point. This is about those characters, and I'm really, really looking forward to read this novel about working class poor people in the United Kingdom. The first author today that I have to talk about, or that I want to talk about, who is a more established author. We have 2 of them, at least here. Maybe 3, no 2, I guess. The second author, who is a very established author, is almost my age. She was born in 1963 in the United States. She has written, this is her 8th novel I'm talking about. She has won the Orange Prize for Fiction, which now is the Women Prize for Fiction. She has won different other awards for specifically one novel that she has written in 2002 or 3, a novel that is called Bel Canto, which deals with the hostage situation that happened in the Japanese embassy in Peru, some similar event in Bel Canto. Some of you might now know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Anne Patchett and her novel The Dutch House. The Dutch House was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize this year. The Dutch House was on many other lists. The Dutch House, I think, was also on the Women Prize, a long list at least, of 2020. And it's a beautiful cover, isn't it? It's a wonderful cover. This book has a beautiful painting on the cover. And it is about two siblings. It's about 2 siblings in the United States, I think in Pennsylvania. Yeah, small town Pennsylvania. Danny Conroy and his sister Maeve. They live with their father in the Dutch House as children. They grow up there. Their mother is absent, and one day her father brings a woman called Andrea to the Dutch House. And the life changes of those siblings. And during their lives, it goes on for decades and decades. It's a story that is really dealing with a huge time span. Danny and Maeve always go back to the Dutch House, but they never really come to get an answer to some of the questions, some of the secrets that surrounded their childhood in the Dutch House. And this novel is a great novel, I'm sure about it, and I'm really looking forward to read it. It's published by Bloomsbury in the United Kingdom, and if you have a chance to get the audiobook as well, it's not on Audible, it's on other platforms, you can buy it somewhere else. The audiobook is read by nobody less than Mr. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is reading the entire Dutch House. Must be a great experience. I wonder if I get the Tom Hanks audiobook, and when I take on the Dutch House, I might listen to Tom Hanks and read in the book at the same time. I did that with Girl, Woman, Other, and I really loved this experience. Third book is The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. If you would know me better, which you get to know probably during the next few hundred videos that I'm going to post on this channel, you would know that I really love the Pacific Northwest of the United States and of Canada. The states of Oregon and Washington and the province of British Columbia, and would really love to visit also the state of Idaho, although I'm not sure if Idaho still belongs to the Pacific Northwest. And I get to know that there's an interesting book, an interesting story, an interesting novel, an interesting author that comes from the Pacific Northwest and that deals with the Pacific Northwest. I'm very surely going to buy this book. So I bought it, and this novel, number 4 that I'm presenting today, is published by Counterpoint in the United Kingdom. Luckily, it came out pretty soon. Very often, books don't have the same publishing dates, because if you're dealing with American or Canadian literature, for example, and those books come usually, all of the books come to the United Kingdom, to Europe, but it takes some time. Sometimes it takes 4, 5, 6 months, and sometimes it takes years. I have an example of one author in the end of this video for you, who has waited years for his debut in the United Kingdom. The book I'm talking about is Vera Violet, and Vera Violet is a debut. It's written by a woman. It's written by a woman. Melissa Ann Peterson is the author. Melissa Ann Peterson, Vera Violet. And this is a book which is in a pocket edition, coming out directly in a pocket edition. It is published by Counterpoint. It is the story of a young girl, a young woman in the Pacific Northwest in the state of Washington, not in the prospering town of Seattle, but there are very rural areas, both in Oregon and in Washington state. Beautiful nature, but people sometimes live on the edge of poverty. And this is the case in Vera Violet. This is taking place in a lumber town in the state of Washington. It's a story about a bunch of teenagers in Washington state who live their life beside the big city. Vera Violet's O'Neill's home is in the Pacific Northwest, not the glamorous scene of coffee bars and craft beers, but the hardscrabble region of busted pickups and broken dreams. Vera's mother has left, her father is unstable, and her brother is deeply troubled. Against this gritty background, Vera struggles to establish a life of her own. A life fortified by her friends and her hard-won love, but the relentless poverty coupled with the twin lures of crystal meth and easy money soon shatter fragile alliances. Doesn't sound like a very funny reading, but it's a reading that has to do with the realities of life, and I'm looking forward to read Vera Violet by Melissa Ann Peterson. One of the most anticipated novels of 2020 so far. I'm talking about another debut by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and this is a book called My Dark Vanessa. I think most of you have a different edition. This is a very different from the American original publication. This is published in the United Kingdom. It's where I get my books to Sweden, and it was published by Fourth Estate in London. My Dark Vanessa. Vanessa is a woman, a young woman, Vanessa Y. She was 15 years old when her English teacher had sex with her, when she had sex with her English teacher, and Vanessa at the time thought that this was great love. 17 years later, she's 32 now, and she's a woman in the middle of her life, still very young. Vanessa gets to learn that her English teacher has had sex with other girls at the same time. And Vanessa starts to questioning her experience with her teacher, whom she loved and whom she believed to love her. We're in the Me Too area, of course, and we are in the Me Too era, of course, and this book deals with this subject, and it was very, very well written about. Nuanced, uncomfortably bold and powerful, my Dark Vanessa goes straight to the heart of some of the more complex issues of our age. Looking forward to this book with this great cover. I have my favorite places in the world, so have you. And one of the places that I would love to come back to from time to time is the city of Brighton in England. So when I saw that one of the United Kingdom's most well-renowned authors, Mr. Graham Swift, has written a book about Brighton that deals with Brighton, I thought I have to get it. I have to read about Brighton. And this is about the bright days of Brighton. When you come today to Brighton, I did it actually last summer, and I spent 2 beautiful days there along the coast, the Channel Coast. I love the city. Brighton is not... You see that Brighton was formerly a city that had an extreme glamour. Now you see a lot of people, a lot of poor people there, so a lot of homeless people there because homeless people are drawn to the coast. But I saw a lot of poverty in Brighton when I was there last summer. This novel by Graham Swift is not set in 2019 or 2018. This is actually set in 1959, and this is called Here We Are. Graham Swift, Here We Are. This is a novel about 3 people. I can read the text here from the publisher, so you know what this is about. It is Brighton, 1959. And the theatre at the end of the pier is having its best summer season in years. Ronnie, a brilliant young magician, and Evie, his dazzling assistant, are top of the bill, drawing bigger audiences each night. Meanwhile, Jack Robinson, as in before, you can say, is everyone's favourite compere, a born entertainer holding the whole show together. As the summer progresses, the off-stage drama between the 3 begins to overshadow their theatrical success, and events unfold that will have lasting consequences for them all. This is a story about 3 persons, 3 people. The backdrop is Brighton, 1959, and the famous Brighton Pier, of course. Not the least one, but the last one for today. The last one is, you remember I was not so fond of American Dirt, and I said that there are so many other novels that people should read that are recommended by Latinx authors, and I got me one. So I was happy when it arrived 2 days ago. It's the debut, it's not his debut, because I think it is his already 5th novel, but it's his debut in the United Kingdom, the first book that is published in the UK, and the publisher is John... hold on a second. John Murray is the publishing house in London that is giving out this book, or publishing this book. It's called The House of Broken Dreams, and the author is Luis Alberto Urrea. Luis Alberto Urrea is an author who lives in Chicago. He teaches at the University of Illinois. He has a Mexican father and an American mother. It's probably wrong now. A Mexican father and an American mother. Thanks God, yeah, it was right. And this book is about a family in San Diego, California, close to the Mexican border. And it's about a birthday party that is looming around the corner. The main character is Miguel Angel de la Cruz, who is affectionately called Big Angel by his family. He is summoned to this birthday party. His mother will be 100 years. So in these 2 days that this book deals with, The House of Broken Dreams, Broken Angels, I'm sorry. The House of Broken Angels. The House of Broken Angels. In 2 days in this House of Broken Angels, the family deals with all the stories. We get to know more about the stories of the whole family that has once emigrated from Mexico to the United States and has made the United States their new home. The House of Broken Dreams by Luis Alberto Urrea. Very beautiful book with this nice cover. I'm looking forward to read all the 7 of those books. And finally, let me say that I'm still struggling with technical issues. This video is filmed with my P30 Huawei smartphone, which is really good, it has a very good camera, but I'm not 100% satisfied with the audio. That was all for today. 7 books I'm going to have to read in May, June, and July, and August maybe. I will come back to you with reviews about those books and my beautiful segment, I've read something. And I will see you later this week on Thursday with another video on my channel. So please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. There are many places, there are many subscriptions that are actually free right now. So you just have to click the button below. It's no problem. And you can also leave comments in my comments section. You're welcome to do this. If you are a booktuber and you leave a comment, I will watch your channel and we might have some cooperation in the future. Thank you very much for listening today, for watching today, and bye-bye. Have a great Sunday and stay safe in these difficult times.